Welcome, local yokels, eccentric stereotypes, and giant worms, to the 244th episode of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 7th of February 2018, and featuring the Fourth Doctor Adventures Trail of the White Worm, written by Alan Barnes, and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor, Louise Jameson as Leela, and Jeffrey Beavers as the Master. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
Damn that snow!
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
I'm at 30% now.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Chocolate!
And Tim the Enchanter Sheridan. Tim? Did we lose it, Tim?
Oh, not Tim.
Beavers and ducks.
He's okay.
There it is.
So he either had his mic muted or he's royally lagged. We will find out later.
Yep, we will.
Like, no, he's not. Okay. We should note that tonight is going to be a non-scoring night, as we kind of did part one of a two-parter without exactly realizing it.
Shame.
Well, thought we planned for that mainly, but yeah.
Not really. We should have watched these at the same
Surprise!
time, but
Yeah.
I only found that out. I thought the next two were two-parters, and I was going to bring that up after the stream, not realizing, nope, this was part one of a two-parter. So we won't be scoring this week. We'll score both adventures next week. Bill tried to argue prior to the stream that because we did Frontier in Space separately from Planet of the Daleks, that we should do this one separately. And I'm like, no, there's a big freaking difference.
Length.
Planet of the Daleks, or Frontier in Space, ended with the primary story arc of that adventure finished, except for one little dangling plot thread, which the Doctor then pursued into the next story arc. The location changed. All the characters except the Doctor and Jo changed. That's it. This one leaves you on a big freaking spanking cliffhanger, which is resumed in the next story. So,
With all characters still involved, so yeah.
So yeah, we'll not score this one. We'll score it next time. And not a lot of news tonight, but there's a few little pits. A couple of rumors, which we'll be addressing and reminding you that rumors are to be taken with a grain of salt, because they're
Some of them the entire lick.
Both of these come from well-known tabloid newspapers.
Yeah.
So we know not to believe most of what they say.
I know the reasoning for one of them, at least.
One of them I'm posting because there's a sense of logic to it that may be true. The other one is pure bupkis, but was posted all over the place, so I figured should be addressed.
Don't you love those?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a little rant on Geek Talk. Based on my experience driving to my Echo on Monday. But we'll talk about that later. We've got no real review of Shame, no YouTube commentary. Was there anything new on Geek Talk, guys?
Nothing at the moment. I know early reviews are going out for Black Panther, but that's for people who actually got to see it, and they've been
got to see the advanced
reviews.
Yeah. Like the press release.
Mm-hmm.
We won't get to see it until like a week or two from now, if then. But we'll try.
Yeah, I don't
We
think
will
there's
not
anything
help
else
us.
to do.
Aaron and I will try to see Black Panther.
We will try to.
Mhm.
Depends.
I
And
want
then, of
to, but I have
course,
no idea what day I'll actually have a chance.
I just
Yeah.
don't know if we'll have money for it right now,
Well-
even with the cheap-ass discount.
If I have to borrow money, I will try.
You're not borrowing it from me, that's for sure.
Well, that's a given. I mean,
if that were the case, you could just buy the tickets.
Yeah. Seriously. Not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about asking relatives at this point. Although I can't really say, hey, can I go borrow money to see a movie? I'm not a teenager anymore. That doesn't work.
Anywho.
Okay, so let's go on to our news. First off is birthdays. The first birthday is the 1st of February is Elizabeth Sladen, Sarah Jane Smith. Would have been 72, but died in 2011 at 65. She is well-loved, well-remembered, arguably the best Doctor Who companion in existence, and we all miss her very, very much.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Going on to the 3rd of February, so with Groundhog's Day sandwiching the two, you've got Warwick Davis, who played Porridge in Nightmare in Silver, but is better known as Wicket, the Ewok in Return of the Jedi, and Willow in Willow. Turned 48.
And Leprechaun in Leprechaun.
And the Leprechaun in the Leprechaun movies. I forgot one. Yes, I did, Bill. It's a good time to be Warwick Davis. Disney's purchase of the Star Wars franchise has given him lots of work.
Lots and lots of work. He's in just about every movie at this point, isn't he?
He was Wotabin in The Last Jedi. He voiced Rook in the recent series Star Wars Rebels and is in a as of yet undisclosed role in the upcoming Solo, a Star Wars story. So he's all over the place, and he'll probably be in the 9th Star Wars movie as well, because I think he was also in Force Awakens. So
I think he might have been one of the judgmental lizard people.
He might have been. But yeah, he just keeps going and going and going.
It seems to be a given that he's in a Star Wars movie at this point.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I think, was he in all the prequels too? It's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell because most of it's CG.
Yeah, because the normal Warwick Davis role would have gone to...
I remember I saw him at the pod race in episode 1.
Yeah, he was in Phantom Menace in 3 different roles. That looks like
doesn't look like he was in Clones or Sith.
Yeah, it looks like that was his only outing for the prequels.
So he covered all desired entries in the prequels in one movie.
So he was in The Force Awakens, he was in Rogue One, he was in Last Jedi, he's been in Rebels, he's in Solo.
He's also probably going to be in the 3rd upcoming Star Wars sequel.
Yep. I was trying to see if he had been in Star Wars The Clone Wars, but it looks like that was too soon. He's been in everything since Disney bought the franchise, so...
Pretty much.
And there's at least 7 Star Wars movies coming out after Solo, so...
Yeah, I know. Well, this is Disney's thing. Star Wars is making money, milk it.
Yep.
As long as we don't make a bad movie, let's at least make a good movie.
Well, at the worst, Star Wars will make a mediocre movie. Some of the stuff that they've made for the MCU has not been bad. It's just not been great. It's been, okay, that happened. I mean, like, Thor 2.
Yeah, Thor 2 was pretty much came off as mediocre. Same with a lot of people debating over Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
And Iron Man 2 as well, apparently.
I was saying Iron Man 2 I thought was a lot less liked than Iron Man 3.
Well,
depends on who you ask.
Yeah, because a lot of people didn't like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Usually that's the problem, is you don't like bits of a Disney MCU movie.
Yeah, the Mandarin was a very small part of that movie.
But so you can't argue, the whole thing kind of comes off as ho-hum. And I'm suspecting the same thing's going to happen with Star Wars. There's going to be bits you don't like. There's going to be parts you love, and, it's going to be good to ho-hum, and a few every now and again that was really good, As long as you keep coming back and paying the money, they'll be happy to make more. So, at Warwick Davis will have a job until he retires. And then, yes, 3rd of February, Warwick Davis, happy birthday, followed by the 4th of February, which was the birthday of our own Mad Matt Winchell, who turned 33.
Woo!
Oh,
You're
lordy.
getting
Yay,
old,
happy birthday,
Matt.
Matt.
We're gonna start calling you old man.
No, he shall be old Matt.
Old man.
Old Matt.
Yold, Matt. Yold.
I can't say anything because I'm 9 years older than him. Oh, God, I feel old. I feel old.
By the way, I image searched myself. I've by my YouTube name, and wow, I found quite the collection. And although it starts to go away after the first half a page, but the top row of stuff is like, wow, this goes back.
Yeah, I used to Google myself all the time. Yeah, I know, an issue of vanity. But I
remember when I used to record in standard? Ugh.
And the first thing that always used to come up for me was I used to be in this Star Trek role-playing club way back in the days. And I would come up with the history of that club. I was important enough to that club that I was listed in their history. And that was kind of cool. But it's, that was freaking decades ago. So that history has since been replaced and, well, not really fully replaced, but it's been summarized. So I'm no longer mentioned.
Aw. Be right back. I don't know why, but Rand has the fan on in the bedroom when it's like 6 degrees outside.
Because it's
humid when you're covered up.
No, it's not that. It's the fact that it gets stifling in there. I need a little airflow. So I leave it on low to just flow the air around.
Okay, back.
Okay,
And
so
slightly less cold.
Well, good thing you're back, Aaron, because we're up to episode news.
Yay! And pretty simple episode news. It's basically the opening episode for Series 11 is now going to shoot up in runtime to 65 minutes? Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
65 minutes, and the other episodes are going to be 50, the other 9 episodes.
And I just realized I cut Bill out of the news.
Whoops.
Oh.
Yeah, I noticed
well,
that.
if Bill wants to, he can take Big Finish. I'm okay with that.
I'm cool with Bill taking Big Finish. Can you do that, Bill?
You want Big Finish?
Sure.
Surprise!
Surprise! You got Big Finish. We're just forcing you in there.
Okay, sorry about that. Continue, Aaron. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, this is another 5 minutes placed on top of what they already had as runtime of 60 minutes. And what is the average runtime of the previous episodes? Was it like 50?
Of Modern Who, it's about 42 minutes.
42 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And they announced a few months ago that season 11 would be 50 minutes instead of just 42. Basically, an extra 8 to 10 minutes. So what would be in our
although
time,
the last couple of season starters have been about an hour.
Yes, they have been doing like a long season starters and occasional long finales.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, how is this going to be broken up with commercial breaks on American television?
It's either going to be an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Yeah, most likely.
Wow. They're going to have to put a lot of commercial breaks in there.
Well,
they already do.
Think about this, Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
The typical hour-long show runs 42 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say a typical 20-minute show is spread out to a 30-minute slot on American TV.
But they usually have to cut a little bit from the episode to get it down to that length to show it in an hour here from that 42. So they chop out about 2 minutes worth of footage. Because for every 40 minutes of American TV, for every hour of American TV, 33% of that's commercials.
So if anything, they get to extend their commercial breaks for this one.
65-minute special. They'd normally add an additional 30 minutes of commercials to make that an hour and a half. It would normally run an hour 40, hour 45. They run a little 15-minute special at the end of it, 2 hours.
There you go.
Done. They'll have the cut down like old like Doctor Who behind the scenes kind of thing.
Yeah, confidential would be nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or
And
maybe
it's a new showrunner, so that's just a possibility.
Yep.
Well, what they do nowadays is they have an after show special.
Yeah.
It's not the same
Talking Dead
thing.
and whatnot.
But they'll usually have that after the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because they usually want like an hour for that. So they'll have what's his face out there, the Nerdist.
Mm-hmm. Chad Hardwick.
Chad Hardwick will basically do a talk thing for Doctor Who after the fact, because that's what they did when Capaldi took over.
Mm-hmm.
Meh.
Yeah, I never watched that stuff either, except for Talking Dead. I watched a little bit of Talking Dead, but you know.
Yeah, Bob's been trying to get me into Talks Machina, the Critical Role.
I've been looking for it. I keep
thing.
not seeing it lately, but that's another story.
But I've been bulking at that because I'm more just interested in watching the episodes at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll figure out a way to make it fit.
Yeah.
It's still, by the way, a BBC America co-production, so they'll already have a plan. They're paying for it. They'll have a plan. Anyway, so that's our episode news. Tim, you've got a couple of cast and crew news?
Yes, cast and crew news. Steve Moffett had a chat with Radio Times where he talked about the time Jenna Coleman almost left Doctor Who before she actually did. It was when they were filming Last Christmas in 2014 for Doctor Who Series 8 that Coleman changed her mind about her decision to leave and stayed on for Series 9.
I feel like he told us that a year or so ago.
He already mentioned this before, yeah.
Well, for some reason this came by as new news.
Did he add anything extra?
Right now.
He did mention that he, quote, I vaguely had a set of thoughts about what the new companion would be like.
I mean, we all remember we were, doing our podcasts back then, and it was kind of like a what the fuck when that happened. Because they'd pretty much set her up to leave at the Series 8 finale and then brought her back for the Christmas special and then decided to remain.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all just kind of eyebrowy.
I mean, we weren't sure if the Christmas special was going to be her last episode or not, and everyone was reporting different things. I think the Mirror got in on it, and it was whole big
There's
thing.
another quote by Steve Moffett. I didn't feel as though we were quite finished with Jenna and Clara, and I wasn't convinced, looking in Jenna's eye, that she was really ready to leave. And I don't think anyone should leave Doctor Who until they're really ready to leave.
Remember, that was the one
Tom
where Tom
would still be the Doctor if that were the case.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Well, no, because he was thoroughly fed up.
Well, he was fed up with John Nathan, and if he could get rid of John Nathan, he would have been still on.
Right.
Yeah. He'd be doing it until he was unable to act. Or keeled over dead. One or the other.
If Tom got it his way, he would have been on there until he broke a hip or something.
And that is, kind of the thing about many doctors is I had to leave now because if I stayed any longer, I'd never leave, was what a few of them have said.
Yep.
It's what Tennant said. It's,
Where Peter Capaldi said that he was leaving because he was starting to get too comfortable in the role.
Yeah, that's basically saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It's once you get to that point, you got to leave or you're never going to leave. It just becomes who you are. And that's not true for the companions, but it is kind of a very true for the Doctor.
I wonder if it's true for the people who've played James Bond.
It might be to some degree.
It might be to an extent. It's a little different for Bond because it's not a constant thing.
Mm-hmm.
You do a movie, you take a year off, you do a different movie, then you come back and you make the next Bond sequel,
Yep.
Yeah, the
You've got a
average
little-
Bond actor appears in less than 20 episodes of Bond. By which I mean I'm pretty sure all of them appear in less than 20 episodes.
Mm.
It's true.
You get acting variety. When you're cast as the Doctor, you basically have time to do nothing else. Other than between being the Doctor and, convention and guest appearances, cameos, talk shows, you're basically the Doctor and that's it. Tennant would occasionally take some time off to do acting, but it was brief roles here and there. The season of movies, because he had already committed to being in a Broadway, or not Broadway, a West End show, thinking he would have stepped down from the role by then, not realizing he was going to be held on for another year. Things got weird.
Yep.
Sorry, Discord's locked up again. Give it a moment.
Stephen Moffat, when she learned that her character Jenny was ceremoniously killed off screen.
Yeah, what happened to Jenny has been a huge fan speculation for years. Don't do that.
Yes. And afterwards, Stephen Moffat wrote Russell and said, by the way, whatever happened to Jenny? And Russell said, oh, she flew straight into a moon.
And of course, this never got revealed to us until what, like 2015? And I don't even think it made news then.
Like, I think I remember hearing about it, but this, like, it still feels kind of like, really? I don't remember this at all.
And, well, apparently Big Finish either doesn't know about this or is just completely ignoring it because Jenny is being brought back for her own series.
Yeah, I think Doctor Who is one of those franchises where WOG is not canon at all.
Yeah, because especially with Moffat and Davies, where they're just... because they'll say one thing one year and say the exact opposite the next.
Yeah, and if it's not been on film, it's not officially canon.
Mm-hmm. And if they're pressured, they will backpedal on anything they say, so...
Mm-hmm.
Between the two of them, they don't have a spine. Moffat! Damn it.
Davies!
He stepped down, and I'm still cursing his name.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you've listed the big news. Jenny's coming to Big Finish. And that should have been Big Finish news, but I couldn't find that on the Big Finish website. Apparently, by the way, that will be coming in June.
I think we covered it as Big Finish news a little while ago, didn't we?
I don't remember it.
She did write a testy email to Moffat and Davies, but it doesn't say what the email actually said.
Yeah, well, you don't want to... I mean, you think about this. Georgia Tennant, nay Georgia Moffat, is probably the most one of the people you do not want to piss off, considering who her daddy is and who her husband is.
Mm-hmm.
Pissing her off will immediately get 2 of the now 13 people, 14 people to play the Doctor mad at you. And that's not an that's not
and
a
a
good
number
place
of
to
them
be.
are also friends with the other doctors, so
So she has a lot of pull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
piss her off, and there's gonna be rabble, 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 rabble.
Yep. Because you piss off Peter Davidson, and that will likewise piss off Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy,
You know,
and maybe Paul McGann.
this kind of makes me wonder whether they wanted to do the episode or not. I mean, did they do it because maybe they felt pressured into giving her a vehicle?
No, they
No.
they wanted to do a 1-episode roll, and then RTD basically wanted it to be done and over with, and Moffat
Mhm.
wanted a dangling plot thread, and
And then Moffat, being the
That was their
lazy SOB that
compromise.
he is, didn't finish that plot thread ever, so it just hangs there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was one of those things, because remember, at the time, Georgia Moffat was only Peter Davidson's doctor. It was when David met Georgia making the doctor's daughter that the two of them began to date. And of course, now it being, 10 years later,
Mm-hmm.
they've been married for 5 years now and have at least one kid, if not two.
I believe it was 2, yeah.
Yeah, they're it was just happenstance. At the time that they filmed it, she was not a big enough voice to be heard, but when you add the fact that she now has Tennant, who is the most popular modern doctor.
her husband can tell you to walk off a cliff.
Yeah, let's not go there. By the way, have you guys seen the movie David Tennant's in, shortly?
Oh, I thought you were going to say the new JJ trailer, because I haven't seen that yet.
No, it was something that caught my eye. This is a completely side story and a tangent. I'm sorry, but we have time. This was one of those links that I saw, like YouTube sent to me or something. He
Yeah,
is
Tenet.
coming out in this film called, what is it? Bad
IMDb.
Samaritan. It's in post right now, where basically he plays a guy. He's not the main character, but he's the main antagonist. Basically a guy steals his car, takes it to his house, and attempts to rob his house, and basically discovers that he's like a serial killer or a kidnapper or something, and spends the rest of the movie being stalked by Tennant's character.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's really good at playing that twisted, that on the face decent guy that's behind the scenes a twisted psychotic villain, because they bring him back to that so often.
He's actually up for 4 movies in the next year.
I see 3.
Fuddy Mears, Bad Samaritan, Mary Queen of Scots, and voice for Chew.
Yeah, I saw the last 3. I did not see the first one.
So, the way things are going nowadays,
Buddy
I would
Mears.
not be shocked if they announced a CGI / live action DuckTales to be released in theaters or something.
Give it a little bit of time. They've only had 1 season.
Yeah. Give it a little bit of breathing space.
Give them at least 2 seasons before they start thinking of theatrical movie.
Yeah.
And by the
How
way,
long was the original before Treasure of the Lost Lamp came out?
it was at least 2 seasons.
Yeah, I was going to say at least 2 years, I would assume.
Let's see. DuckTales, and we are royally tangenting, by the way.
Yeah,
Hard.
Tangerine.
Talking about
DuckTales,
cast news.
DuckTales came out in 1987. Treasure of the Lost Lamp, it was 3 years, by the way.
Okay.
Came out in
3 years.
1990. So it was almost 3 years to the day from the day it came out. So
anyways, rewind that all back.
not rewind it, but I think we're done with the cast and crew news now. So we go on to media releases. And we have received word by way of our friends at Doctor Who News, who has received it from the BBC themselves, that they are going to be re-releasing Enemy of the World on DVD in a special remastered edition.
Woohoo!
Now, if you recall, we did Enemy of the World shortly after it was found and announced recovered by the BBC. Back, when was that? Last
about
year
2
or
years
the year
ago?
before? Something like that.
So that would have been 2015 at least.
It was
2016.
one of 2 serials that were recovered from Nigeria that was restored. One of the other ones was only missing one episode.
So they had that one episode animated or stills or something, I believe.
I think they quickie animated it. But anyway, they've remastered this entire serial because it was old and needed it. The restoration team, it was restored in 2013, so it's been 5 years since we did that, folks.
Wow.
How time flies.
Maybe they did it in 13 and released it in 14.
No, because they were releasing it around the 50th. Jesus. Well, I guess 3 years.
I think we reviewed it right before Christmas, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see. They're using advances in technology since then to go over each particular frame.
I'll actually quote from the article here. DVD was released early in 2014.
Yes, but we didn't do it off the DVD. We did it off their
the online streaming.
Yeah, the QuickTime style release that they had. Not at QuickTime, iTunes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where they put it up immediately for that, and then they did the release.
That was when they released it on there then, because I don't know. Anyway,
so they've gone through all the frames with basically a fine-toothed comb so that they're all in the best possible quality. There is a short bonus, Treasures Lost and Found, which is basically an interview on the cast and crew that are still alive about it, including Fraser Hines, who will, of course, do an interview for a sandwich, Mary Peach, and David Troughton, the son of Patrick Troughton, who this was his first TV appearance in this serial as an extra, so double there. Recovering the Past, which is all about the search and interviews Philip Morris, the man, not the company, and how he tracked down the last surviving film copy of this in existence in a dusty room in the African desert.
Wow, some serious Indiana Jones stuff.
Yeah, archaeology for a Doctor Who episode.
Right.
Did he dodge a boulder?
And then there is a tribute to Deborah Watling, who played Victoria in this. So all 6 have audio commentaries. Contributors on them include Fraser Hines, Mary Peach, Gordon Faith, Milton John, Sylvia James. Simon Harries moderates it. All 6 episodes will have production subtitles. There will be a photo gallery, and scripts for all 6 episodes will be released on PDFs.
And I like the art on that cover, but it spoils the ending.
Kinda.
Very nice. This will be released in the UK, I'm pretty sure, March 19th. Yeah, let's see if Amazon.com.
So it means that we'll probably, at the earliest, get sometime in April.
Well, we will be getting it because, trust me, we are one of their big markets.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying it's probably going to be at least an extra month to produce stuff and send it our way.
Germany seems to like to make their, to revamp and upgrade everything before releasing it.
Germany will come out with a 20-disc set.
Right.
Enemy of the World, all the things.
And then some, and more.
It is not yet listed on Amazon.com. So they haven't announced a U.S. release time yet. But trust me, there will probably be one. If they're putting this much effort into it, they will.
They'll try to make their extra money, yeah.
So you can look forward to that. I would probably think May or June. And so that will take us to the Big Finish audio.
And so out now, we're talking about 4th Doctor Adventures today, and hey, there's also a new one being released. The Sons of Kaldor, featuring the 4th Doctor and Leela. Are we skipping blurbs?
We're skipping blurbs because we've talked about this one before.
That's true too, yeah. There's a season trailer, but I didn't notice anything special on it when I quickly browsed through it. It's like a line or two from every story this season, but none of them really stood out to me.
Only thing that we should say about the Sons of Kaldor, it is the Doctor facing the Vox robots from Robots of Death.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen that one, so I wouldn't recognize it. Okay.
Yep.
I remember them.
Yep.
I heard a cry. That was me.
But yeah, it's one of the earliest ones I remember seeing. So
it's one of my first Leela episodes. Not the first, but definitely one of the early ones. She had a scene there where she threw a dagger at the robot, hit it dead on, and it just swiped the dagger out of itself and continued to chase her.
That would be a season to do. Just do Fourth Doctor and Leela for an entire run of our podcast.
That'd be awesome.
Just do them in order.
Not impossible.
Yeah, because we could start with Face of Evil and go all the way through, because I think we've only seen one or two of them, like Talons of Wang Chiang and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that would hold us for 10 episodes. And would get a bulk of mid-Tom Baker out and under Bill's belt, considering he's such a lightweight when it comes to Tom Baker.
It's about time. There's your plan for next season, Bill.
Actually, we have a plan for next season. That might be the season after.
Right. Right. Also out now is the finale of Torchwood. What are they calling this again? Series
Aliens
6?
Among Us.
Right. Yeah, Aliens Among Us. They used to have a series name, but they're not including that in the listings anymore. But it was it should be Series 5, yeah. Because Miracle Day is number 4.
Torchwood hasn't had a series name since
Series there we
Series
go. It
2.
does say Series 4. Well, no, Miracle Day was Series 4, and yeah, okay, but now they're looking.
Yeah, but it was
a
always
special,
just referred to
not a
as
series.
But they always just referred to it as Torchwood Miracle Day. They never said Torchwood Season 4 Miracle Day. It was just Torchwood Miracle Day, and Season 3 was, what was it, Children of Earth.
Children of Earth. You
And
forgot the
they
name of our planet, Ran?
No, I just tried not to think about that season.
Tried not to think of any of those specials.
So anyway, the tagline to this box set is the epic conclusion to the 5th series of Torchwood. Aliens Among Us 3 is here. How did Yvonne Hartman survive? Is Jack working with terrorists? And what happened to Gwen?
Yeah,
the trailer has literally nothing in it.
I do actually think of Miracle Day, Matt, just because there were some bitchin' cameos in Miracle Day.
Yeah.
But that's really all it. I try to ignore the rest of the plot. Just remember that there was freaking Nana Visitor in there. I'm like, fuck, Kira's in Torchwood. Awesome. That kind of shit.
The story names are Poker Face by Tim Foley, Tagged by Joseph Lidster, Escape Room by Helen Goldwyn, and Herald of the Dawn by James Goss. I believe it was previously announced that after this release, the Torchwood Monthly Range is returning. So people who prefer the monthly range over the seasons will have that to look forward to as well.
Okay. I mean, if you have a monthly range, you don't have to do it by season. You can just pretty much say a new Torchwood adventure, and people that love Torchwood will buy it.
I think the point with this is that the season is one that's linearly following from what was televised, whereas the monthly range hops around just like the Doctor Who monthly range does.
Maybe it's that they'll do they'll do a monthly for a year and then they'll do a new season because they have to.
Something like that, yeah.
They have to write it in consecutiveness, so who knows?
Or if you prefer, you can just look at it as a big event within the monthly range.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Coming soon is a 5th Doctor story named The Helix Rift. And the big selling point of this is that this will be the first time the 5th Doctor and Unit crossover on Big Finish. This is written by Scott Hancock and will be coming out April.
Okay.
And actually, it's part of a trilogy of adventures. Do they give the titles?
Well, if it's part of a trilogy, well, no, the next one is not the same crew.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Apparently, the Doctor has no companions in this? When the hell does this take place? When was the 5th Doctor by himself?
There's a few Big Finish stories where he's forcibly separated from his companions, so if you're a stickler for continuity, you would probably have to place it within one of those.
Possibly near the end, like he's dropped Perry off or something.
Mhm.
Or
Like there's a few stories where the only explanation they have is Tegan and Turlough got trapped in the TARDIS and the Doctor had to leave the TARDIS without them or something like that. Not the best answer, but that's the best
they
people have come
added
up with.
for the main range, they added a entirely new companion for the Fifth Doctor at one point. The Egyptian Aramem.
Aramem was during his time traveling with Perry.
Yes, but I mean, she was never in the series, so it was a complete added companion.
But I mean, like it doesn't create a gap in the sense that you can easily fit it between Planet of Fire and Androzani because
but I mean, likewise with this, she could have dropped Perry off, or
right.
The trio was gone, or Tegan and Turlough were off at a museum or something. You can do it. It just makes it really hard to place.
So they do mention, it looks like Scott Hancock mentions that this is a brand new unit team led by Russ Bain as Lieutenant Colonel Price, Genevieve Gaunt as Corporal Maxwell, and Blake Harrison as Medical Officer Lieutenant Daniel Hopkins. So it's not going to be any of the unit teams we've seen before. This is a new team for this group of stories.
Yeah, we might take a look into that. Maybe we'll do a whole season on nothing but unit and get the rest of the Third Doctor off our plate.
Pretty much.
Might be okay with that.
And then that would allow us to add Battlefield onto the list too. The final. Yeah. Just speculating stuff.
And we haven't done Centauran Stratagem yet, right? Or have we? No, we did. We did.
We did all the Centauran episodes.
We did all the Centaurans, Bill.
That's why I said yeah. I'm like, wait, no, we did do that. So I guess I forgot about it. Also coming soon, we have the Third Doctor Adventures Volume 4. I think we covered the initial announcement, but this has cover art and a trailer. And the main interesting thing I found from the trailer, Rufus Hound's monk gets to do a "you were expecting someone else" line. But otherwise, from the Cybermen story, there's a character that they refer to as a cyber hunter and compared to Nazi hunters from old Earth, or from the 20th century Earth. So
I'm sorry.
Might be an
what were you saying,
character.
Bill? I couldn't tell. I was looking at that mustache.
Mustache.
That is a very extravagant mustache. And it being on the
would be proud.
Is that Rufus Hound? Because I wouldn't think of the monk with a mustache, but you would think he should be on the cover.
It's the only character we don't recognize.
Yeah, it looks like that is the monk. That is the monk with the giant mustache.
Not so much of a monkey these days, is he?
True.
Not with a mustache like that.
And that is
I want to get him and what's his face, the guy that did Murder on the Orient Express. I want to get them in a room and have their mustaches do battle.
Looks like a British landlord. Maybe possible that we somehow owe him money.
And the stories are The Rise of the New Humans by Guy Adams. That's the one with the monk. And then The Tyrants of Logic by Mark Platt. And you can guess who the villain of that is between the cover and the name and the author.
No, Bill, I could not guess.
And that wraps up our Big Finish news.
Yep.
Yay.
Yep. Really want to see Rufus Hound and Kenneth Branagh just have their mustaches fight it out.
Yep. Yeah. And
All
Sam Elliott can be the referee.
Actually, that mustache versus Capaldi's eyebrows, which would win.
Capaldi's eyebrows every time. Because
those are an attack mustache.
Yeah, those are attack eyebrows, man. They'll just take that mustache and tear it apart, man. Okay, he's gone. Anyway, so this takes us to the section that we label the rumor mill.
Yes.
And again, I need to warn you that do not take these rumors as God fact. Take these rumors with a hearty dose of skepticism.
God,
Let's find you a little salt lick, just so you know how much salt you need.
Yes, so the first rumor comes from The Mirror. And it is that when Series 11 begins, Doctor Who will be airing not on Saturday, but on Sunday nights, which is seemingly in response to the live ratings, and also the fact that a growing proportion of Doctor Who is coming from the catch-up viewings. And the BBC has to schedule the show around Strictly Come Dancing when it's on in the autumn.
I was confused for a second. I was like, is that compared to the Mustard viewings?
Mm-hmm. Now,
Bill.
the only source that they have on this is an insider, or AKA their on-set spy.
Wah, wah, wah.
Now, I will say, as a theory, this has a lot of logic behind it.
There's some possibility to it.
Yes.
Play the clip,
Yeah.
Cyber Leader. Oh.
I mean, they have seen series ratings flag in the last 5 years. And a good chunk of that started when Strictly Come Dancing started bumping them down an hour or two at night. I don't think that's the entire reason, but I think it is part of it. However, you also have to take, with the same grain, that Doctor Who has tried to move to different nights before, and it's never been as successful. Remember the Monday night move in, what was that, 1984, I think? 1985, and that didn't do so well. But, that was, freaking 25 years ago. So maybe it's worth another shot. But again, I'm listing this one as possible because there's a logic to it. But considering the source is the Mirror and they don't have a credible source, it's doubtful.
It's a lot hearsay maybe right now.
The next one, though, is even less possible. And Tim, you want to mention that one?
Yes, the next one is that apparently Rose Tyler made an announcement on Snapchat where she says, "Big news, what could it be? Question mark, question mark, Rose emoji." And
yeah, we should mention that was Billy Piper that made that, who played Rose Tyler.
Rose Tyler. Billy Piper, who played Rose Tyler, made this announcement that just saying, "Big news, what could it be?" And she uses a rose emoji at the end of it. And this has led the speculation mill a turning.
I think the was at least the majority of opinion based on what I've seen on Facebook is that this is probably an audio thing, and we'll probably hear about it on the Big Finish podcast if so.
Yeah. If it's even that at all.
Yeah, it could just be that she felt like putting a rose in there and that it literally has nothing to do with Rose.
This is a case of a fan posted it, made the speculation, and the Sun, who's the newspaper that reported this, jumped on it, as well as 50 other.
You have to use scare quotes if you talk about the Sun as a newspaper.
Hashtag fake news. But it wasn't just them that jumped on it. Literally, if you Google Doctor Who news and click on the news tab in Google, the Sun, the Daily Mail, Evening Standard, Digital Spy, everybody's jumping on this thing.
Maybe she's getting a series of books.
Doctor Who Watch announced it. It's like, people. She posted something with a rose, and a fan said, "Oh, she might be returning to..." No, come on, people. Use some fucking common sense.
That is a leap.
It's a leap. It's a logic leap. You don't need to go absolutely nuts on it. But, of course, the tabloids picked it up and ran with it like it was a football on the 20-yard line. Sorry, the Super Bowl was last week. I had to make a reference.
People, you might want to warm up a little bit before you try to stretch that hard. You might pull a muscle.
Seriously, I doubt that there's anything, and if it is, it's just going to be a big finish. She is not going to be...
On the regular show, no.
No.
More than likely not. I highly doubt it.
Apparently, fans are already shipping Rose and 13.
Of course they are, because that's what fans do. Okay. Both of those rumors, highly take it with a very big grain of salt. That's the end of our news and our rumors. Now, as we were mentioning, we've got nothing in Geek Talk this week. Hopefully we'll have stuff in the next couple of weeks. I do have a rant. And this stemmed from me on Monday driving at 8 to 9 in the morning to get from one side of the city of Madison to the other through morning rush hour traffic. And I learned a few things about rush hour traffic because that's not normally what I drive in. I usually avoid it like the plague. Which is actually lesson 1. If you can at all avoid driving in rush hour, don't.
Or
For
at
God's
least
sake, don't.
main roads during rush hour especially.
Well, that wasn't really an option here because we had just gotten snow. So I can tell you that the main roads were plowed. The side roads were shit. So I knew I didn't want, because there's 3 ways for me to get to where I was going. One is straight downtown, through campus, through the government section, out the side way. The other one is to go halfway through town to the Beltline, cross the entire length of town, and then go halfway back to get to where I was going. And I can tell you that the Beltline is just as congested as going downtown.
Pretty much.
I decided to go downtown. The third way is to go back halfway through town into Middleton, out and around the lake, through the middle of nowhere, and come out by the college on the east side, not too far from my destination. Normally, that's the route I would take because it's the fastest.
But because of snow...
Yeah, they wouldn't have plowed that. I'm not going to wind up slipping and sliding onto Lake Mendota, where I will crash through the ice and die in a frozen ball of drowning agony. No. So I went through. So the first thing is, avoid driving in rush hour if you absolutely can, because you're just contributing to the congestion, and you will be late for whatever you're trying to get to. I was about 15 minutes late. Number 2, don't do one of these, I'm going to switch lanes over here because this one looks a little faster than the lane over here. No. The second you switch lanes, that lane will go to the start and the other one will start moving. All you're doing is making the trip longer and slower for everyone behind you. I get one of these assholes that occasionally comes over and then tries to cut back. I don't let them fucking in. They can fucking crash into my car for all they care. Stop everybody. Because, yes, I'm a bit of a jerk when I'm driving, but that guy's even bigger jerk. Don't be a jerk. The best idea is to pick the lane. If you're going to make a left turn, get into the left lane and stay there. If you're not going to be turning for, a god's length, get in the middle lane, stay there. If you're going to make a right turn, get in the right lane, stay there. But warning you, of course, the right lane is the one that will stop and start the most. Just pick it and go. Don't be one of these people that does all this because you're just being an asshole. Number 3, road signs are not optional. And yes, I'm looking at you, Southern California. I have watched, this includes signs such as stop, yield, and especially wrong way. I can inform you that trying to make a shortcut on your trip by going up the off-ramp onto the interstate is going to be a bad idea for everyone. And yes, I have seen people do this in California. And it wasn't freaking O.J. Simpson in a white Bronco. Dated reference, I know, but still fundamentally true. Next thing. If you are going above 2 miles an hour, having the front of your car closer than the rear wheels of the car in front of you, meaning that you can't see its rear wheels, is too goddamn close. And again, this is addressed at everybody in California, specifically Orange County, where I have seen traffic virtually bumper to bumper at 70 miles an hour. You are basically at that point an accident waiting to happen. And when you have an accident, everybody has an accident. So show a little courtesy, give yourself a little stretch of road, and if you see somebody with a little bit of length, don't try to cut into it. Remember rule 2, people. My last point. And this one is pointed clearly at the denizens of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and every other northern state. You have to experience the driving after a snowfall every fucking year you're up here. Why is it that none of y'all can remember how to drive when this happens?
People can't remember how to drive when it starts to rain. Never mind.
Well, that's
snow.
a lesser version of that. And it's one that's also exceedingly dumb because you have to do it all the time.
Yep. Especially in New England.
But snowfall is that magnified up to 11. Now, I understand it when you have snowfall in a place like Texas or Florida or someplace that sees snowfall once in a blue moon, you going, oh shit, what the fuck do I do? Ah! And slipping and sliding all over the place. But I can see it when you're somebody that's from one of those areas and you're driving for the first time in a place like here in Wisconsin. But if you're from Wisconsin or a state like it, and you've been driving for more than a year or for more than 3 years, you've been driving these roads your entire life, you've driven in, at least 4 Wisconsin winters.
No
you should
excuse.
know when the snow falls, slow the fuck down and take it careful. Yet every year I see somebody driving like an idiot and slipping and sliding all over the goddamn place. And these are not people with foreign plates. These are Wisconsin people with Wisconsin plates, and I can see at least 3-year stickers on their bumper, on their license plate. Seriously. Remember, snow is slippery. Rule 1. And this is coming from somebody who has wrecked a car in winter. Mind you, I thought I was driving in snow, not snow over ice. Which, yes, is...
That's a big difference, yeah.
Yeah. And I was driving down a hill with a curve at the bottom of it. Trust me, my truck was screwed. But yes, this, when you have to drive in snow, and my first rule about driving in snow is if at all don't too. But remember, slow down. Make sure your car's there. Pump your brakes if you have to. But safety first is all that's mattered. If you're 5 minutes late, it's a shame, but at least you're alive and not an hour late after crashing your vehicle. try to remember that these are big metal machines of death. Drive them, don't crash them. Okay.
Now we know.
That's what I had to say about driving in winter and driving in rush hour. I had to get it out of my system because I was late to my appointment on Monday because people failed to follow these basic common courtesy rules for driving. I had the asshole that was weaving all over the place in front of me trying to get into the fastest lane so that he could get to whatever appointment he had fastest and slowed us all down. I had the guy that tried to peel out from an intersection and basically wound up skidding into another lane. Yeah. You know, it's
Dude,
just...
at the wrong place at the wrong time. You're a road accident.
Yeah. Fortunately, the guy whose lane he skidded into saw him do this and stopped. Otherwise, it would have been a bad day. But yeah, it's one of these things where you're just looking at people being stupid and going, why are you being stupid? You should know better. I was 15 minutes late to my appointment because of rush hour. I'm still trying to figure out, A, why my health insurance sends me to the opposite side of town, 45 minutes worth of driving away, when there is another cardio clinic 5 minutes from me. And another one after that, 10 minutes from me. Haven't figured that one out. Furthermore, I haven't figured out why they continuously schedule my appointment right after rush hour. Yeah, trying to figure that one out. On the bright side, my heart is on the upswing, as I mentioned in the beginning. I'm at 30% now instead of 15%.
Yay.
I'm still hoping to do better than that because it's 40% for me to be out of the danger zone. Danger zone! So, I'm hoping after a few weeks of, PT, my heart will be up to a little better. Otherwise, I'll have to become a cyborg as they're going to have to install me with a pacemaker. Won't I really feel old then?
Upgrading is compulsory.
Yeah. So anyway, now we're up to the 5-minute challenge.
Yes, and I believe I went last time, so I'm up.
So it's
I think it's you, Matt.
And I thought Bill was on the list? Or did he do that the time before Tim?
He did
it probably should be me, and as much as I was having trouble focusing, I can definitely give it a try.
Okay.
Because I was going to say, I could have sworn it was randomly that was just before Tim, so...
it's good to hear that I wasn't the only person who had a hard time focusing on this audio drama.
I was doing a sociology paper. I don't know about you.
I was playing Conan Exiles.
Shame.
I was making bowls and
tables.
Shame. And I still ignored most of this.
So you were bowling?
I was playing Conan Exiles too, and I heard most of it.
So, I was waking up from an afternoon nap
really
and I got all of it.
I was just really excited to finally be able to make an amphora.
Anyway, so whenever you're ready, Bill.
Yep, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, the Doctor and Leela land in England. They get out and find that there's a chase going on between something mucusy and a bunch of dogs and people. They get shoes and realize that they don't want to be chased by the dogs, and they end up getting split up. Leela finds this guy who spent some time in Africa and wants everything to go back to the good old days when there wasn't technology, even though he uses technology. But he's crazy like that and has a tank. And then he introduces Leela to the Master, and then she ends up running away with a worm who happens to be this high-class lady who ironically has fur in her name, who has also met the Doctor. And then she turns into a worm and eats the Doctor and the Doctor and Leela meet back up together and figure out that she's biotemporally engineered to create wormholes. Then they get back to the Master, who I think snaps his fingers and turns her into a wormhole to start the next episode. The end.
Jeez. That's basically about it, I guess. That was in 1 minute 16 seconds.
I skipped all the local yokels and the running for unit that doesn't account
I
for
remember the guy in the tank.
All right. Well, you missed so much, Aaron. Guess what? You get to mention what you liked about the episode first.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'm going first, so I'm going to take the most obvious one and say that it's the discussions and the team up between Leela and the Doctor. Yes,
no. I honestly am going to have to debate you on that, but I will discuss my end of it later.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, you could tell that they're both older, but I thought the dialogue was actually fairly snappy.
I kind of felt like Baker was phoning it in a bit on this one. But I will discuss that, like I said, when I get to bad aspects.
Okay.
All right, Matt, how about you?
I guess the side locals were kind of more or less filler, but I still found them at least somewhat interesting, and they had I actually was listening to them to figure out what time frame this was, and eventually figured out it was like the 70s or 80s.
It was the late 70s. According to TARDIS Data Core, it was 1979.
Which does figure with some of the things they're mentioning, including people going off and doing crazy things to their hair and putting things to their nose and listening to certain older school bands and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I initially thought it was the 60s, or, late 60s, early 70s, based on Spindleton's remark about women burning their undergarments, which was more of a 60s style protest thing.
Late 60s, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
but
late
then
60s,
they mentioned
early
Johnny Rotten.
Then they mentioned Johnny Rotten and the punk look, which kind of did bring the date up a bit.
Mm-hmm. I just consider him a curmudgeon old man. That's why he complained about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I get the sense that his time in Africa was around World War II-ish.
Something like that.
Most likely. Or soon after.
Probably served under Montgomery.
But I found for obvious filler, they were still at least fun to listen to occasionally. And they set up at least a little bit of the background.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I wasn't quite sure when he served, or he wanted to be the guy that served and went out there later, and then just acted like he served. Because there were a few of those nut jobs.
Yeah, both are distinctly possible with a weirdo like this guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's my bit.
Okay. Tim?
I liked the time when Leela was away from the Doctor, because we get to see the Doctor's influence on Leela outside of his presence, like how traveling with the Doctor has rubbed off on her.
Yeah.
In the way she deals with the Colonel, and then the
Master.
And then the Master and the White Worm.
Yeah, again, that's something I'm going to talk about in a bit. But like I said, we'll get back to that. Bill?
Okay. Some of the others kind of touched on this a little bit, but all in all, I think this was a pretty good comedic episode. Nothing really deep, I don't think, but it was just it kept me amused throughout, especially the first episode, I think.
All right. My favorite thing has to go out to Jeffrey Beavers. because by this point, I think he has really learned to play the master, because he's even more the master than we've heard of him previously.
Yeah, for the short little time period he got in this episode, he was owning it already.
Yeah,
I was
he
gonna
was
say
just
he wasn't in
seething
this
it.
much.
He wasn't in there much, but from what I heard, he was just seething it.
Mhm.
He had a touch of Ainley and a touch
All
of
of a sudden, the
Delgado.
slightest mention of the doctor, he's like, the doctor.
Yeah.
It's just like, you feel the boiling rage underneath. Like, he knows trouble's afoot already.
Mm-hmm. It felt right. Although, we will see.
We'll see how much it goes in the next one, yeah.
Yeah. All right, the bad aspects of this episode. Aaron.
I didn't like how just kind of nothing seemed to really stand out to me except for two things. The guy in the tank. Well, actually, three things. Jeffrey Beavers, the guy in the tank, and the snake coming out of the woman's mouth when she transforms. Everything else, I mean, the banter and everything was kind of amusing, but I'll be honest, I was completely lost on the plot for this. I mean, they land in, 1970s?
Very late 70s.
Yeah, late 70s England, and then it's all a bunch of talking about stuff and like running around and evading the snake and all this and evading the locals and trying to help the locals too, I think. And then I don't know. I was just kind of lost during
Essentially, it was them trying to evade the local nutter, even though Leela landed right in his backyard, and then the doctor trying to figure out where she ran off to from there.
Yeah, and it was just like, it just kind of all went over my head. Even though I wasn't doing anything super complex at the time, it was hard for me to keep my concentration on the episode.
I got it.
Yeah, I was just kind of meh on it.
All right. Matt, how about you? What didn't you like?
Overall thing I didn't like, there's ways to do stories without leaving it such a thunderous cliffhanger, and dear God, what a thunderous cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this big event happens, it's going to shift the entire story, and this thing is going to happen, and these other things are going to happen, and we just end. What?
Yeah, Aaron and I actually thought we had lost a track or something.
Yeah, I was literally seriously looking around, and I had to actually question the Discord. So, were we supposed to end in part 2?
Actually, now that I think about it, I think the first time I listened to this, because I listened to like whenever I first got Spotify, when I was going through everything, and I think that was my first reaction, that I had kind of like paused and been like, wait, did I miss something? And then I realized, no, you just go into the next story and it picks up. But I thought I had missed something.
Yeah, that cliffhanger was abrupt. It was like the story was building and building, and you thought it was supposed to.
It was finally going to get to something really interesting, and all of a sudden, just came down with a thud.
Mm-hmm. Tim, how about you? What didn't you like?
I thought some of the dialogue was kind of repetitive. Like Leela's Constance's description of the snake, as wide as a petulant child, and as long as 4 men stretched on a rack. Is like, wait, does that mean a petulant child is wider?
It's supposedly a overfed, fatter child. Apparently, yes. Child? Would be my assumption.
Mm-hmm. It's like I thought it was a kind of
that or some sort of native slur in her people for like a teenager or something, maybe too.
They never let her get through the whole description, but
yeah.
But still, it was like there must be some other way to describe this space worm.
It's big.
Yeah. I think that was a problem with Alan Barnes's writing, but we'll see next week.
We'll see.
Bill.
I'm going to say I feel like the Colonel was kind of underused. Like, he had this really, like, flamboyant introduction, and then it's just like, oh, he's kind of the Master's toady, and then he kind of ceases having a personality.
Yeah. I agree. I'm like, what happened to the guy in the tank? Oh, he's just kind of running around causing trouble.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, well, that kind of segues into something I was thinking. But I now have two issues because you guys didn't mention one.
Mm.
One, my first issue with this is I felt that the Tom Baker's performance, and this frightens me, was rather lackluster. I think a lot of times, because before this, Tom Baker had been doing a lot of narration work. Before this season, I mean. He had been doing a lot of...
was this one of his first audios, or was he on
This
a
was
break
this
for a
this is in
while,
his
or
first
what?
season of audios.
This is his first season of audios.
So that could have been part of it too.
Yeah, he had been doing a lot of narration work and stuff, and he'd forgotten how to act audio wise, because there were several lines he put out that he just kind of said into the microphone and didn't respond with a personality that I was expecting. You know, sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And his how you say it was flat.
I get you. I kind of put that down to him having like being older and a little off, but I see. Now that you say it that way, I can kind of see it.
I've kind of heard it in some of the other audio dramas I've heard Baker in, but
I want to see how he reacts in later ones. Because it takes sometimes
I'm willing to bet more recent ones are probably a lot better.
If you don't act for a while, you lose that bit of how to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And had been a narrator in almost everything for a while. I mean, when they did this, he had just come off of Little Britain, I think, was the last thing he did. If you remember that, where he basically just puts everything into the microphone with making it as humorous in his voice as possible, without really acting, just being rascally humorous. And I think that he's still doing several of his lines in his Little Britain voice. So, yeah, when did this come out?
This would have been 3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago?
It was released in 2012.
So about 5 to 6?
Just
depending?
A little too late to get him and Slade in the same booth.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he had basically been doing nothing but Little Britain prior to this. Medieval Resurrection, Little Britain, and the Beeps for a couple of years too. So yeah, he'd basically only done nothing but narration for about 5 years when they cranked this out. And I mean, it's obviously he got his mojo back after the 50th anniversary special, because he was beautiful in that.
Yeah, so it might have just been that he just wasn't quite in the right mood yet.
He was rusty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that's the case anyway. All right. And the other thing that I mentioned is, I think, contrary to what some people think, I think this should have been longer so they could have woven a subplot into it.
Yeah.
So a little something to carry him a little more interest, yeah. Make like a subplot that's only for these parts here, and then end it on these parts. That would have actually have fixed the ending issue.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit.
Yeah. Not try to pad it with more filler, because obviously it's padded with some filler as it is, with the natives talking. It needed a secondary plot. It needed a reason for them to be there, other than, hey, look, it's a worm. Hey, we're in England. Hey, look, it's a worm. It's very flat writing. Which might be another problem, is Tom Baker just couldn't get the enthusiasm up to act to it.
You can probably tell from my summary, but in my second listen through, I was kind of like, what is the Doctor even doing all this time?
Yeah.
So yeah, something for him to do.
Mostly he's out walking around.
Yeah, it would have been great if they were tracking something else and he had just heard the legend of the White Worm when they were there, and had him deal with this other something, and then have the White Worm turn around to bite him in the ass or something. Figuratively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to give it a little more oomph, other than Psycho in a tank tries to run down Leela. I mean, that's basically the height of action in this hour-long drama, and it's not even that much
and Leela
action.
threatens to shoot down Psycho's house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's not really action, that's threatening action. But that's really it. It's kind of flat. It's kind of meh. All right. So best scene. Aaron, you're first.
I think the best scene was also kind of one of the grossest ones. Is the snake emerging from the actor, or was she an actress? No, she's like some kind of upstanding woman. But like the snake emerging from the woman's mouth. It was really well described.
One
Although
of mine,
it is
by the
kind of,
way.
huh?
One of mine, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure how meta you were going. I'm like, well, yes, she is an actress, but
No.
Yeah.
Like she's talking about the character.
Right.
She was
Yeah.
just some sort of rich woman. We don't really know what she was supposed to be outside of that.
Yeah, I mean, it conjures up imagery of the hidden and certain episodes of the X-Files that dealt with kind of the same monstrous creature that shoots out of people's mouths and takes over other people's bodies and stuff like that. But it was a great, it was some great horror imagery, because at first I thought it was going to be kind of like the Mara, to be honest, 'cause the way that they were describing it as a giant snake and everything. It still has
Essentially,
that attribute.
it was essentially a more grotesque version of the Sylvain,
Yeah.
which kind of works.
Mhm. Yeah.
No
I thought
fart
that was
jokes.
actually pretty well done. Yeah.
All right. Matt, how about you?
Favorite scene. The one that Aaron just mentioned was one of my favorites, and that was actually top of my list. So second up would be, I guess I liked the bit with Leela when she encountered the Master in the cave, because she played that off as Leela could usually just be like turn around stab, but she's just this reaction of hers was very much a doctor rub off on her. I think she's like, oh, creepy black guy in a cloak. Hello, you think you're something special, huh? She almost did a Tom Bakerism and took him like tongue in cheek until the worm showed up and then scampered off.
Yeah, so Aaron takes Matt's takes mine. So Tim.
I love the scene where the doctor waxes philosophical in the stomach of the worm with Leela.
That was probably one of his better performances.
In this one, yeah.
Just the fact that the conversation is taking place in that setting adds a veneer of wonderfulness to it.
Which is hard to pull off in audio. Like, you can't see the stomach of the worm and everything.
But you kind of hear it. They have some certain background noises.
Bill, in Tom Baker's defense, he acted in Doctor Who in the 1970s.
You had to act a lot to make these things work.
Where you had to look at a guy wrapped in bubble wrap
and go, that's a threatening creature.
And go, that's a threatening monster.
They didn't even have the proper rubber suits like later doctors would have.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to now, where you have to talk to a guy dressed in green pretending to be a monster.
Yeah.
So, at least there's something there, but yeah.
You got to remember that Doctor Who actors are very good at reacting at virtually nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that here you just got to imagine it, which is probably better than trying to react to something and trying not to laugh at it.
Better than when the new Spider-Man was told, fight something, but we can't tell you how tall it is because that's a spoiler.
I'm sorry, Graham. I just can't take that seriously.
No bacon sandwich for you.
And the evil creature scuttles across the ship and makes a bunch of lavatory sounds as it does so because it's made of bubble wrap.
All right. So, Bill, how about you?
I'm surprised no one took this, but Leela's introduction to the Colonel.
Sunbox.
Wasn't my favorite scene.
Yeah.
And that was something I forgot to mention. Louise Jameson's reacting at this point. I think she got too used to her character's evolution in like Gallifrey and other things, because it's far too urbane for Leela during her time with the Doctor.
I know.
Sometimes she would be back there, but other times she was a little too loose.
I'm not sure if it was this one or another one, but I know in one of the behind the scenes I listened to, she mentioned how like she had to constantly remind herself, this isn't Gallifrey Leela. This is before that, before she's gone through as much.
Yeah. Yeah, I could tell sometimes that she was sometimes forgetting where she was in her character's timeline. All right. So I'm at my best scene. What do I got left? Oh, man. I think it's the scene when the Colonel returns to talk to the Master and he just goes off on him, where he first hears the word doctor. I think just because that reaction is just like, no, you fool, and it's just perfect Master dialogue.
The Colonel is just so nonchalant that the Master is just getting angrier and angrier.
And yeah,
he's like I don't like what even is a doctor, like I don't even give a shit. And he's like,
meanwhile the Master's over there. You bungling fool! You nitwit!
Nincompoop.
The robots are smarter than you.
All right, so that's mine. So worst scenes. Aaron.
I don't know if there's anything that I really hated. To be honest, like things just
I
didn't,
have one.
they either is
And I'm pretty sure it's also Matt's.
Yeah.
And possibly Bill's.
Possibly. Okay.
I don't know.
I'll probably remember it when you guys mention it. But right now I can't really think of it off the blue. I remember stuff that I really like and stuff that was kind of meh. But I don't remember anything that I really disliked at all.
All right.
I don't have anything I particularly hate, but if I was to pick a scene that made me go, really? Is that apparently out of the nowhere, the Master can conjure storms, which can drag worms with lightning and cause them to make portals.
Oh, yeah.
That was like, what?
Yeah.
How? When? When did he build this?
Storms can't hurt people or worms, but...
Since when could a Master use a lightning bolt to kill us?
I just go into every story ever assuming every character can do that until I'm proved otherwise.
It was all that time he spent off camera training with Naga the Serpent.
Apparently. Because what the how does he has the ability to summon up a storm and shoot a very direct lightning bolt through people? How has he not used this to already conquer the world? Much less the universe.
I think it's supposed to be explained as some of the power he had from absorbing from the Eye of Harmony, but they never really explain it.
Hokey bullshit. They don't explain it, and this is something that you really do need to explain because this is nothing he's ever been able to do before.
Yep. Tim.
Okay. I really didn't like the very beginning when the Doctor says, "Don't go shooting off," and Leela says, "I can't shoot because I don't have a gun." I thought even for me that was kind of weak.
Yeah.
Weak pun.
Weak pun. And you know me, I have a low bar, so I'll admit it.
All right, Bill, how about you?
So I'm going to go with the scene where Alan Barnes is writing an ending to the episode, and David Richardson or Nick reaches over and grabs the paper and says, "No, it's over. New episode."
Yeah. You just took mine too. The finale is it's building, and then it's done.
It's got a portal, and they're gonna come invade us, and done.
There's no payoff. There's absolutely zero payoff, and you felt like the tension was not ramped up to where it could be.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, if they had gone on just about 10 more seconds, it would have been perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Where the alien comes through and speaks and cut.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to pay the guy that's voicing the alien, which is probably Nick Briggs.
Probably.
4 or 5 seconds of dialogue, or a second or two of dialogue.
We are the dark overlords of the universe.
No, we cut that. What? Cut that. Go on. Shoot. You're right.
But as it is, it just kind of fails to pay off. So it's the finale is absolute ass-tastic.
It is not Nick Briggs.
Really?
He is not in the cast for next episode.
Boom.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I see who it is.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been my second choice.
Another popular monster voice.
Another popular actor from the new series who's doing voices. And amazingly not playing a Sontaran.
Sontar, huh?
Sontar who?
Exactly. So anyway, yeah, my worst scene also goes for the finale, because just you feel so abruptly ended on that you're just like, you're pausing for a while. And when this was released, actually no, this was released in a set. But then you start going into the interviews and you're just like, what? What?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Did I hit the next button too much?
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
And that's not a good sign that that it paid off. And it's not the way to end a story that goes into a new title. You wanted this, this was obviously should have been one big ass story. Anyway, so that's my worst scenes. Final thoughts, people. Aaron, you're first.
This wasn't a terrible episode, but it certainly, I mean, the audio to me felt like it was competently done. There wasn't any glitches or bumps or anything like that really kind of messed things up, and I was okay with the acting for the most part, but the writing was just kind of blah. There wasn't enough excitement in it to really drive it for me, to really get me interested in stuff, especially not towards the end, where we end on a cliffhanger and everything. I just kind of spaced through most of it, and a lot of the parts that I remember are only remembered because other people pointed them out. So it's a really meh episode. You could probably skip it, unless you're a big Finish completionist or a fan of the Fourth Doctor and Leela, like I am, or a fan of the Master. But otherwise, if you're just, I wouldn't say a casual fan, but someone who's just kind of not sure if they were going to go for the Big Finish stuff, you could probably skip this and come back to it later, maybe. That's it for me.
All right. So, Matt.
I'm going to have to wait in my final feelings a little bit on this one for the next part, because obviously a majority of this was literally set up.
Yeah.
It's blatant and obvious setup, getting us prepared for the second half, which should be like action-packed and super adventurous and get us so totally bought into the story, but because it's all set up, a lot of it comes off as pointless fluff for the first half. So it definitely needs its second half, is what's leading me to right now, and we'll have to see how the second half holds up next week.
Tim.
Yep. Okay, on the one hand, I really liked this episode because of the alien in it was so alien that like it really explored like how much difference can be with like biology and physics and chemistry and all that thing. So that was a good thing. On the other hand, and I feel really bad for thinking about this, but Louise Jameson sounded like she was really hearing her showing her age. I don't know if anyone else thought this, but she sounded a lot older than she did back in the 70s. Well, of course she is, but
There's obviously a difference in her tone, but otherwise it wasn't too jarring. At least you could actually tell it was still her.
Yeah, it wasn't overly jarring for me either, but then again, I have heard some of the Gallifrey audios with her, so my mind might have made that audio transition.
I haven't heard those yet, so.
Yeah, I think I heard her Jago and Lightfoot's before hearing this. I'm not actually sure. One or the other.
All right, so Bill, how about you?
So this kind of feels like Alan Barnes trying to write a Robert Holmes six-parter within the constraints of the Fourth Doctor adventures and not really being able to squeeze it into that little box. It's not the greatest Fourth Doctor adventure. It's not terrible. There's, I think it's decent as a comedy, but it falls short in the whole mystery action side of things. So I'd put it somewhere middle of the road.
Okay. Well, we're not rating it, so
yeah,
we can't without the other half. And that's my thought on it. Is I'm with Matt. I really have to see where the story goes before I can even begin to rate it. But from what I've seen thus far, it's really in the mediocre. The writing is kind of plotting and simplistic. The acting, some of it's good, some of it's just non-enthusiastic, or just rusty as hell, can't tell. But it's really kind of a mixed bag at this point. A lot of, if I was buying this as a diehard Tom Baker fan, I would actually be quite a bit disappointed. Because it's just, it's lacking that certain something that Tom Baker always brought to his performances. But we'll see how it comes out of the next one. All right, so I think that is going to do it for us.
Yep.
Like I said, no voting tonight because we need the other half of the episode. So I guess take us out, Bill.
All right. So if you enjoy listening to us, don't forget to subscribe at twitch.tv/unearthlypodcast or an Unearthly Podcast on YouTube. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter for news and updates. If you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast.
All right, so next week, after the abrupt ending we had on the story this week, we will resume the other half of the story next time in the Fourth Doctor Adventures, The Poseidon Adventure, written also by Alan Barnes and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor, Louise Jameson as Leela, Jeffrey Beavers as the Master, and a special appearance by Dan Starkey as Marshal Grinmall and Captain Clark. So, see you next week.
See you next time.